Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the MPO Policy Committee meeting, otherwise referred to as the Laredo Webb County Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. Today is December the 15th, 2021, and it's 1:45 p.m. Today is Wednesday, and so moving on to roll call, please.
Yes, Ms. McGinnis will help call roll.
Good afternoon. Mayor Pete Sines.
Present.
Judge Tano Tijerina. Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez. Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez.
Present.
Dr. Marta Martinez.
He is present.
You should be coming.
Commissioner John Galo. Councilmember Vanessa Perez.
Present.
Mr. David Salazar.
Present.
Mr. Humberto Tito Gonzalez. For the record, you do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. Moving forward, then, of course, we're meeting here in the Laredo Council Chambers, 1110 Houston Street, Laredo, Texas. You all can join us as well by logging into laredotx.swagit.com/forward-live. And also you can view us on Spectrum TV channel 1300. Citizens' comments? Yeah, we have Commissioner Gala.
Right here?
Yes. Sure.
You're on the other side with your
Somewhere.
question.
Oh,
Move
okay.
over there now?
No, move this all around.
Right there.
I think right here?
Yes. Oh,
Since I was my own first.
no, where you're at, right?
Yeah, okay. So, let the record reflect that we have Commissioner Gala with us. So, citizens' comments, we haven't,
Nothing at the moment.
no one called or no one, came by. Item 4A, approval of the minutes for the meeting held on November 17th, 2021. Is there a motion? Do we have any changes or proposed amendments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Galo.
Second.
Is there a second by, Commissioner as well, but the City Council Member Vanessa Perez. A discussion? None heard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, none seen. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. B, a discussion with possible action regarding the extension of Cuatro Vientos Boulevard, which is Loop 20 to Rio Bravo, and any other matters considered there too. This is an item that was also requested by Dr. Marta Martinez. I know TxDOT has a presentation to begin with, and then we can proceed.
I know they're going to be presenting the Unified Transportation Program project selection. I don't know that we have that later on the agenda. I mean, it does relate somewhat, but I'm not sure if they wanted to get that presentation now or till the end.
We can always,
It's up to you.
Mr. Chair, we can defer since Dr. Marta is not here yet.
Well, that's true too.
Or he's in the back, maybe we can defer until we do that presentation.
Okay, yeah. So there's a motion to defer until we get Dr. Marta Martinez, since he is a sponsor of this as well. Is there a motion to that?
So moved.
So moved, seconded by, I would second that. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None seen, none heard, motion carries. Item C, discussion with possible action on the River Road project.
Yes, and I know at the last meeting, we had a discussion about the River Road project. It was requested by the policy committee to add this item to every agenda. We continue talking about it. At the last meeting, I know the RMA came forward with a proposal to do a study for the alignment of the River Road project from Aquero Boulevard right now, currently up north to about the area of Las Tiendas Road. And we do have a map, we need to show it, but we checked on the eligibility. That seems good to go. I have reached out to legal to check on the procurement, since the RMA would be using their procured general engineering consultant. So I'm just making sure that that's something that we can participate in without having to do a separate procurement process. So pending to hear back from legal. So at this time, if we can have a little bit more time, just look at everything, discuss it with the technical committee, and then come back with recommendation on that study. But you all can discuss other matters in regards to the project.
In connection, I think we'll wait till, whenever you all are ready, hopefully in January or February.
Yes.
Okay, anything else? None? I'm moving on to item D, a discussion with possible action on the Ruthinger Road project. Apparently that's been ongoing. I think TxDOT has been kind of briefing us on that.
That's correct, Mayor. Mr. Roberto Rodriguez will be presenting a brief summary of that, and I think we are going to ask if we could come back on a quarterly basis versus a monthly basis.
Okay.
But Mr. Rodriguez will be giving the update on that.
Correct. Good afternoon. For the HR Ruthinger, the work authorization with a consultant to perform the engineering services was executed last week. The first two items they will be working on is completing the right-of-way mapping and reviewing our construction estimate. As far as the other item that was pending, which is the environmental, the archaeologists, they complete their assignment. They already prepared the report and it's currently under review in Austin. Hopefully by February, we'll have a response from Austin and we have everything compiled together to present the final environmental document for review.
Any significant findings?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay, thank you for that report. Anything else on this matter?
Mayor, I'd like to add, I don't really agree with putting it on quarterly. I think we should keep it monthly. So we can make sure to stay on top of it. I mean, cause I know at some point in around, maybe if everything goes well around September, we're gonna be at a point where we can start and then it's gonna be like a year where we're just kind of waiting. So, I think we should keep it on there monthly to show that.
And I would think that that's also proper my end as well. If you don't have much to report, just say it's, basically the same status or something.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay. This way we'll all, we're all together here. Okay, then, a good suggestion. D, well, that's the Ruthinger 5 reports, a presentation by Stantec and Able City on the comprehensive operational analysis of El Metro. Welcome, sir.
Yes, let me verify that there's some other presenters that are going to be on the Zoom link. Do you know they're on there, Julio?
Where do I know?
Good afternoon.
Okay. Can you
I
call me,
don't
T?
think it's joined. Well, can you give me just a second to see?
And just to mention this, this study, the comprehensive operational analysis, is a study that the MPO helped pay. This was done for El Metro. Stantec, the consultants, and Able City worked on this collaboratively with the MPO and El Metro. It's been a great effort. I think it's the type of studies that we should be doing as an MPO, right? It's looking at transit, and it's real important. That goes with our mission to not just look at vehicular, modes of transport, also look at other things such as transit and active transportation. So I think this is a really good study, and it's been great working with the consultants and El Metro on this.
Thank you.
Yes, if I could ask while we're waiting, whatever happened to the El Metro Depot? Remember we had the presentation here, how many, it's been years now that they say, oh no, we can't sell that land, this, cause we're gonna start and we're gonna do all this, and here we are in the same position, and I don't think oh, and by the way, the city's not following its own ordinance there, you're not keeping that lot clear.
Which one?
The Metro?
By Jekyll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you referring to the North Transit Hub or the?
Yeah, the transit hub, supposed transit hub,
Okay, well, that's,
it's very expensive property.
we don't have Ramon.
Remember the lady came and testified?
Sure.
We asked her that question, how long ago was that?
What's that, about 5, 6 months?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the committee. I'm Chavez, City Engineer. As far as the El Metro facility is concerned, we went out on RFQ a couple of months ago. Those RFQs have been reviewed, and we're looking at bringing back a recommendation to council on the first meeting of January
For what?
for selecting a consultant.
Oh, I thought she said she already had plans, everything.
The plans were outdated, and they need to be updated to current code standards. And so that's the reason, after reviewing all the information, we were directed to go out again on RFQ, and so we can select the consultant. That was the reason that the plans had been, they were ready, but they were outdated.
Okay, so
And they have to
Were
bring
they
back
outdated
to
at the time?
current.
Were they outdated at the time she gave testimony here?
I don't know when that testimony was given. I'd have to
I
look
wanna
at
say
the
more
year.
than a year ago.
Right. So,
This was recent that we looked at it, it was brought up to my attention, and so that's the reason that we went out again, for that purpose. That the new plans that have to be generated have to be up to current building code standards.
Okay, so that's really the status, I guess.
Yes, and we'll be here in January before the city council with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez.
Yes.
Yeah, we ready for the other part?
Maybe we can move on to either the presentation by TxDOT or item C.
And the
Okay.
meeting not ready, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to
Yeah,
this
some
one as
people are
well.
supposed to be in on Zoom, but it says that the host hasn't started the Zoom meeting, so we're checking with IT to see what happened.
Okay, so the update by NPO staff on the request to compile a list of previous plans and studies conducted by or in collaboration of the NPO.
Great.
And for the record, we do have Dr. Marta Martinez with us. Dr. are we- oops, it's okay.
Or you wanna go back to that item, or you wanna do the presentation?
Which item?
Well,
Here,
let's, yeah,
You request?
let's go back to, the Dr. Marta Martinez item, or at least you were.
The Cuatro Vientos Road, B?
Yeah,
Right.
Motion to bring item 4B, please, or bring back to the table?
Second.
There's a motion, a second by Commissioner Gonzalez. Discussion, none heard, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, not seen, motion carries.
Thank you. Mayor, we've been working on the loop for some time now, and, we see that it's progressing the way we want it to, but a little slower than we wanted to actually, because certain things have been happening, and more delays on the horizon, it looks like. But, continuing this loop all the way south, I think is really important. This area, I think, is one of the gateways that connects the county to the city, that really can improve regional mobility for Webb County constituents into the city, right? So we have people in El Cenizo, we have people in Rio Bravo that travel every day to work.
And people from Zapata,
And people from Zapata,
San Ignacio.
San Ignacio, that come to the city. And, right now they have to turn right on Manganaheim, and they have to turn left on the expressway there, Jaime Zapata, right? It's called?
Or Loop 27.
No,
Cuatro Vientos Road.
Cuatro Vientos.
Loop 27.
And so, Mayor, we talked about the continuity of the loop all the way south to where we could think overpasses across Wormser, Lomas del Sur, and all this in the
All
future.
of it, yeah.
And then connecting where Cuatro Vientos Road ends all the way to Rio Bravo. Which I think for us here in Laredo.
Really should be the 4-5 bridge, I think it's, it was conceived all
And
the
it
way.
would continue all the way that way. And for us, I think this is important because, Laredo doesn't have suburbs, okay? And we continue to have some of the highest cost of developing or development in the whole area and really in the state in many regards. And part of that is because we're landlocked in many ways, and we all know this. And we've never been able to affect this type of change that we have an opportunity to affect today, which is connecting those cities directly to our city. And that can, in many ways, help foster economic prosperity in our neighboring cities, in El Cenizo, Rio Bravo, and the county at large, all the way down to San Ignacio and past into Zapata County. And that really starts the process, I think, of creating this suburbia to Laredo. These sister cities that are here, local sister cities, where people can develop their homes, live 10 minutes away, and work in Laredo, and thereby hopefully driving that competition that we have of lower cost of development in these areas, because it does cost less to develop in Rio Bravo and in El Cenizo. People can get bigger lots if they want to. And I know I'm a council member for the city of Laredo, but ultimately I think that what happens in these cities, much like what happened in Round Rock or in Pflugerville for Austin, or what happened in the surrounding areas of San Antonio, Schwartz and all these other cities, I think we need to do something like that. And this MPO, I think, is designed to improve mobility, and that we did that, or this is created because increasing mobility increases economic prosperity for the region. We know that they're tied together, and I think we need to make an investment, and we need to really change our priorities, or at least include this into our priorities, so that we can connect this area that one day is going to be potentially a bridge system, these cities, these smaller cities that can help lower the cost of development in Laredo, and then really increase the prosperity of Laredo by having an increase of workforce come into our area. So I think for all these reasons, this is something that has been lacking. I don't think that we've made, I know that there are projects that we have in the north that we're working on, but this is integral, and this is really necessary. And so I wanted to bring this up for discussion. I know it has possible action. We have some monies. All our monies are dedicated right now, but we are going to have some monies in the near future, Cat 7 funds that will be available. And I'd really like to think about using those monies for these types of projects, which I think are important for trade, for economic prosperity, for our workforce, and for so many other reasons, and also as a good way of tying the county to the city in a much more positive way. And I think that I just want to bring it up to discussion right now, and then I'll make a motion here in a minute.
Mr. Chair, I also want to comment and thank Councilmember Marte. This is, you're right, this is very much needed. Right now, we have a lot of traffic that the thousands of people, and there are about 16,000, if I remember correctly, maybe a little bit more in those areas, that travel every day to work. And some of these people work all the way in the Mines Road area, so it affects everybody. And you're right, it'll bring a lot of economic development throughout. And I know Mr. Salazar, he's been a strong advocate about this project. We have about 12 property owners, Mr. Salazar, if I'm not mistaken, that will have to be able to align themselves with us to be able to do something like this. But it's very much workable, and I know you can brief us a little bit more on this.
Can we get a map or a
Yes.
graphic somewhere, if you can?
Yeah, we have some
So the
maps.
public can appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that up. We're just waiting for them to set up the Zoom, but
I think they've got.
If I may,
on the best one.
no, and I wholeheartedly concur. I mean, anytime when you improve mobility, you improve everything, you know? So, we see the traffic that's built up and things. But I want to see what else we can do about Cuatro Vientos, because I remember when, I think it was Judge Martinez first tried to do it, I was very much against the way he tried to do it. Then TxDOT kind of changed their modus operandi for a while and did this limited access, which we see as a disaster. I said, I wanted to do it exactly the same way we were doing Ruthinger. Just build, get the right of way, build the frontage roads, because the frontage roads are your economic builders.
Yes, sir.
That's where your development is. That's your economic growth. That's where all your tourism money comes from. That's where all your tax dollars you get. That's the highest valued property there is. And now we can see how the traffic does not flow well, on any, and then when we put the overpasses, I think it's gonna be worse, because there's no feeder roads to go into, so they have to go straight into high traffic lanes already.
Yes.
And so there's no way, so can we go back? I know places are developed, but can we go back and see what's the ability, at least can't go back, from there on, put frontage roads? That's utmost important.
It makes a lot of sense, unless that TxDOT has a different,
This limited access thing did not work, and they only did it for a little while, and then they got away from it.
is there a reason for that?
So
Mr.
may I-
Salazar?
may I-
And we ask and you respect that.
No, that's finally, that's great. It's a great way to open up the topic, Mr. Martinez, and I appreciate that when you have your councilman from the north side willing to appreciate, understand the need for development down south. As a textile representative, I would like to say that we do have long-range plans for the future growth of Laredo. Y'all sat here with us when we tried to allocate the UTP 21 for last year, and you see the demand that we have versus the money that is available to us. So that in itself is quite a challenge. But we do see in my vision, or our vision for Laredo, we always look at the city of Laredo as a three-pronged fork. Having one of the largest imports in land coming into Laredo, we have three forks that are very vital to us. And of course, number one is I-35, the continuation, and as we see it, the optimizing the system performance and preserving that asset of 35 is a challenge in its own. We still have to continue to keep that roadway open and up to our standards. The other fork again is the Ports to Plan, which is directly off to 35 US 83 up to 77 up to San Angelo. If you look at that prong of that fork, you see what's happening just off the 83-35 intersection and the growth that's happening there at 255 with our future focus on that project with the 4-lane divided in that area. And the third prong is the I-69 US 59, which is the one that runs to Houston. Our long-term plan and range for that is to alleviate some of the traffic on 35 that's heading up to San Antonio and heading east toward Houston, the Port of Houston. So with the continuation of US 59, you're looking at three forks. Here recently, and to tie into what Dr. Marta Martinez is speaking about here, is Interstate 2. Interstate 2, milepost 0 actually begins at US 59. That in itself is going to carry its way south to the FAR district and in the McAllen Valley, connecting US 83, making that a 4-lane divided highway, hence where the growth is happening right now. We are preparing for that. We do have some long-term range for that. But I would like to mention that beyond that, not to count the 10,000 trucks that we're getting into Laredo on a daily basis that are coming over on the 3 bridges, is the outer loop and the importance of that loop to alleviate some of the congestion that we have coming. We do have that outer loop plan in the area that ties into Rio Bravo up north to connect up to the areas that Dr. Marta represents up on milepost 13, 16. That outer loop is something that we are working on as far as the feasibility study that we need to do. But more important, let's talk about South Laredo, the extension of Loop 20. So we understand that the growth that is happening right now in Laredo and the housing development is south. And we understand that these folks are having to travel up north to the Mines Road area, to the 35 area to come to work on a daily basis. That hits is the importance of the extension of Loop 20 south. Hopefully utilizing anything that we can do to get Interstate 2 running south along that corridor. We do have a route that we have a feasibility study in place to determine where that tie is going to come into Rio Bravo, as well as the extension on Loop 20. With that being said, that is our overall view of the city of Laredo and the geographic importance of where it's at. It is vital not only to our community, but to the state of Texas. It is no secret that 35 begins here with the traffic that ends up in Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we are moving forward with long-range plans for that. But what I do like to discuss is that we have a perfect opportunity, and this is going to tie into our presentation that we have here, because we're coming up with that. And I'm glad, and I'm very happy that Dr. Marte, as well as Commissioner Gonzalez, are prioritizing this project as one of the top needs in Laredo, because it is. And we will have a chance here in the next couple of months to prioritize on projects and what the needs are for the city of Laredo in conjunction with the NPO and elected officials of the city of Laredo. At this time, Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to slip into the presentation so we can kind of understand what the process is going to be, so we can prioritize the projects that are needed in this area.
Yeah, Commissioner, just quickly though, the question, Mr. Salazar, continues to be the access roads, because I have business owners that continue to complain to the county and to city officials regarding their inability to develop because of these long turnarounds that they have to go through, right? And so you have people that are traveling and they want to go to the opposite side to go to, let's say, a gas station, or let's say somebody wants to develop a commercial development right along the loop or Cuatro Vientos. They have to travel literally 1.5 miles, 2 miles one direction to do a turnaround to come back, and by that time they've really lost their taste for wanting to go to and so we haven't been able to develop. And that development to this area, that commercial development, to Commissioner Galo's point, is really where we drive our economic growth from, right? Because commercial developments also always do very well. Those are tax dollars, from sales tax dollars, not just ad valorem dollars. And so we want to prioritize that type of growth in the area. You know, I made a promise that when I was elected, that I was going to figure out a way to get a movie theater to South Laredo. And it's not my area, but that was my promise. And so there are great areas to make movie theaters here. We have now the median income to make movie theaters here because we have a lot of, you know, teachers and Border Patrol agents, a lot of people that live in these areas, but we have nowhere to develop because we don't have that infrastructure in place, so we can take just this normal left-hand turn to go into a commercial development,
Because there's no frontage road.
because there's no frontage road.
Okay, so,
let's-
to that issue, what's your response?
Yeah, so let's
Zelda?
look at that, and I'm glad you bring that to the table because, Laredo's no longer a small-town community. We're beyond that. We got traffic. You can see it every day at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock on Loop 20. Our way of moving traffic and mobility to get people across is because you're sitting in light, and if you're sitting at a traffic signal, if you're sitting on the lane, that's money that's costing us. Same issue that we have at the ports and where they're coming into the US. If they're sitting in line, they're costing us money. So to kind of answer your question is, the future Loop 20 project that's coming up along Loop 20 project, we are gonna build the frontage roads first.
Oh, good.
Frontage roads will be built. We will not disturb traffic inside of the traffic set. So once we build the frontage roads with access to the businesses, we'll be flipping traffic on the outside. At that point, we'll jump in the middle and we'll take off and fix that, so we will not affect local businesses. Now, let's talk about the mile and a half. Many times, we go to San Antonio, we travel, and I'm by far not comparing it to San Antonio, but that's the direction Laredo's going, whether you like it or not. I-35, our master plan is to have turnarounds every mile and a half. You look at Ruthinger and Chad, that is going to be an 8-mile section of roadway. We are building the first phase only, which we are building the frontage roads. Eventually, we'll come back and we build the maintenance. We're acquiring the property to continue to do that, and it's a lot more easier for construction when you do that. So our long-term range is to do that. Now, you're talking about 60,000 vehicles traveling on I-69. If you're asking me to give you a traffic light, a median, open a driveway for frontage roads, then guess what? That's congestion. That's not what we're about. We're about frontage roads, we're about getting traffic through, so through relief, building frontage roads as well. So projects moving forward, we'll have the frontage roads, and then we'll come in and build the inside of the lanes. That's what, now, I-35 is growing. We know it's growing. We do have a master plan that we shared with the city. Every mile and a half, we are gonna have an overpass. You're gonna have one-way frontage roads. You're gonna have to travel and come back. The times of having a median, the times of having a traffic light, I'm sorry to say, we've grown too big for that, to support anything like that at this point. We do everything with economic development in mind. We do our best to try to help and ease, but remember that our top priority is safety. That's gonna be our top priority, any project that we do. But moving forward, we will take that into account. We appreciate those comments. Ruthinger and Chad, we are building the frontage roads and then coming back and building the maintenance, so we can have access to those businesses.
I don't know what Cuatro Vientos looks like now, how far the development has gotten, but is there any portion that's already built where frontage lanes may be acquired, where they're gonna start there and then go south?
So my understanding of the Cuatro Vientos is that we bought the footprint for overall, we can have frontage roads and main lanes. If you look at it, the bridges will be in the main lane, so you can go over the traffic lights. Again, alleviating traffic at that intersection, alleviating traffic congestion.
You don't have 400 feet of all that area, right?
350.
So you do have room to put frontage roads? On the section that exists now?
From what point to what point? In other words, we want to connect 83.
So why don't
Do you
we,
have right of ways already?
why don't we do this? Why don't you let me put something together?
Perfect.
Come back and show it to you. Here's what we got, here's what we're working with, and then we can
In
have a
terms
clear
of right of
picture.
way.
So we're not
procured,
looking at this or that or intersection, we can pinpoint it. If you allow me the time to put that together, we can definitely do that and present
Can we
it to
do
you.
that, do you think you can have it by the next meeting, sir?
I will definitely try.
Thank you.
Commissioner, to add to Commissioner Galo, the City of Laredo project, the sports complex, that's gonna be on Cuatro Vientos Road.
I know,
And
but I'm just saying,
that's where we definitely need
That's
a,
where we need the first,
Yeah.
overpass.
We need that
I
first.
agree. I would agree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
so maybe by next time, and I think the city is also, not contemplating, but we'll be visiting on that TRIZ, which should contribute, some revenue. I'm not saying a lot, but at least some revenue toward.
Now, bear in
That is,
mind that we will have the ability in the next coming months, and when I say we as the MPO, to prioritize the needs of the city of Laredo, with this area is one of my highest concerns, personally, one of my biggest ones because of the development that's happening down there. So we will all have an opportunity to look at that,
which one, I'm sorry?
this area.
this area.
this area.
And it's gonna continue to grow. It's the #1 growing area in the city.
No.
And I think it's gonna continue to grow. I think people are really enjoying it. It's got really scenic views. You guys haven't seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, I think Commissioner
So we have,
Chairman would like to say something.
yes, Mr. Brown, how are you?
Good afternoon, Jed Brown, Chair of the RMA. I wanted to let everybody know that we have a meeting this Friday. It's a workshop at 9 o'clock to discuss transportation reinvestment.
And it's open to the public?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We've invited, certainly it's RMA members.
And I'll be there too, I think.
Great,
Okay.
but, so that will help. It fits in nicely with this item that's being discussed. Hopefully, we can help the city and the county promote that
The
entire.
county representative should be there as well, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
As long as it's infrastructure, not,
I'm sorry?
I said, as long as it's infrastructure, you know, we're
Well, it
talking
is, it is.
overpasses,
Yeah.
we're talking things, not just development.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. I think we're done with this?
You know, I think to me, I just want to make sure that we make this one of our top priorities, and so I'd like to make a motion to make this one of our top priorities by adding it to, what is it called?
You tip,
UTIP.
I don't think you can right now.
If I can,
We have to do it at that time?
You know, keep in mind too, you know, once we see the needs, it's just-
Dr.
No,
Martin,
I-
why don't we, if you would allow me, some time to present, and then you'll see what we're dealing with.
I get it.
You can make your motion.
because I've been there once or twice,
This
and
project-
and we've
this
gone wrong on
project-
one project, and
It's on our long-range plan as a project needs list. So that means that it was unfunded, so it's not within the fiscal constraint of the plan, but it's one of the top projects that's not currently funded in our long-range plan. And then the plan that Dave was talking
When
about
are we
is,
going to have Cat 7 monies available again?
oh, in 3 years. I think they're all taken.
No.
So we have time to wait to
FYI.
make the motion?
No, next year.
Yes,
Next year, no?
absolutely, absolutely.
Next year, huh?
Absolutely.
So those monies are taken out.
So the
I
Cat
think,
7,
by-
your Cat 7 dollars are committed up to fiscal year 23. After that, they are uncommitted, which is fiscal year 24. On the average, you receive about 7 million per year of Cat 7 dollars.
All right.
Okay, so maybe,
Wow.
yeah.
That's,
No, and I'm with you. We're,
listen,
they're all,
let's just make this motion, Mayor, because
Sure,
you may not be
okay,
here in
go.
a year. I know we won't be, and I may not, so I'm gonna make the motion to look at 2023's CAT funds to be utilized for this specific purpose, which is connecting.
24.
2024, forgive me, to connect Cuatro
83,
Vientos Road
yeah.
all the way to 83, and use those monies as possible to create also the overpasses and lanes that we need. So that's my motion.
and I would second that.
Mr. Chair, discussion real quick. Were you gonna bring back other funding ideas when you come back with this plan, or?
Remember, there's 12 categories that we can dip into. Category 7 is certainly MPO dollars that they can use as they so feel like. MPO category 7 dollars, remember that there's also several projects that are priority, not only in the south side, but on the north side, that you can utilize in them. If you're gonna utilize them on a state project, then who am I to disagree with you? But we are going to present something here shortly, and just a process that we have to go through, and you will have your opportunity, I believe in the month of January, to submit our priority of projects. And again, they do go into a selection process, so even though we do submit them, they are ranked and scored across the state. But as far as utilizing your Cat 7 dollars, would be awesome. Working with the RMA as well. I've had several conversations with the RMA. It would also be great. But that's something to be discussed. But if you like, Mr. Rodriguez, if you want to present the process that we have to go through on a yearly basis to select UTP projects and funding available for them.
Can we include, Mr. Chair, maybe include in the motion and second to the
never
Cat 7 and any
County
other
Development
funding
Schedule.
source that TechSub might recommend?
As amended from my end.
To include any other funding source that TechSub might recommend?
I'll accept that amendment.
Okay, call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
What are we voting on exactly?
Just looking at all funding sources for this project.
But,
2024.
2024,
The
are we
connection,
looking at all funding sources, or we're committing all funding sources?
we're looking at all.
Looking.
funding sources.
Looking at
But we
it
can't
just to
commit yet
evaluate.
until.
No, we can't commit, but I'm saying, but this is,
I believe the only funding category, which is the MPO Cat 7 dollars, is what you can commit. The rest of us, of course, are state funding that we definitely are looking into, whatever we can to get it there, so.
What we want to make sure is that everybody understands the
why don't we just include this on the, as a priority? Because like I say, you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. And that's why I say I hate,
Yeah, call it
as
a
long as we
priority,
can,
no words,
I don't know how much flexibility do we have? Can we just change the vote to next month?
You have plenty of time to get to that point. We can always adjust the UTP. We get one shot a
Okay.
year to change, correct the UTP,
Right,
so.
I concur.
That's what I was saying. We can always come back and change it if we
No,
need
as
to.
long as we're flexible.
But I just think that if we show the importance, I think the state and the state commissioners will hear us loudly, and I think they need to hear us loudly. And so if there are funding sources that become available, they'll say, hey, here's a project that we might consider shovel-ready and move this direction. If we say it's on the list of projects that we anticipate 1 year, well then, it's never gonna happen. And we need this project.
I think that you are on the right path when it comes to, when you ask folks listening. I think we are gonna have a great opportunity to prioritize these projects. We will be submitting our UTP list. Utilizing CAT $7 or CMPO dollars on one of these projects to fund some priority for us certainly is not gonna hurt us. They are gonna listen to us, where we can substitute other tech category funding to try to supplement those projects and complete those projects on time. I do believe you're on the right path. I would have to agree with you wholeheartedly. And I'll stop there.
Well, there you go. Text on our side.
Keep in mind too
Take the
that,
vote, take the vote.
okay, yeah, keep in mind too that now counties can actually engage in TRIZs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tried to do that the other day, but it didn't work. But
Did work? Okay.
And there might be
We'll see.
funding opportunities, with the new infrastructure bill. There might be opportunities there that we can look at. And I just wanted to mention our next Metropolitan Transportation
And
Plan.
realize that the portion you give away counts against your cap.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna mention that the next Metropolitan Transportation Plan update is in 2025.
Spending them.
We started working on that a lot earlier, about 2 years before. So around 2023, we'll start looking at all this. We're gonna look at all the available funding, for the future. And then from there, we start prioritizing projects as well for our long-range plan. So we'll definitely consider this project, as you
So
all
even if
mentioned.
we get 10, say we get to that juncture and we get 10 million per year, it's gonna take easily 10 years, but we gotta, to do all of that. But you gotta start somewhere.
10 years won't get you nothing.
Well, 20 maybe,
I
yeah.
mean, no,
Just to complete the-
it has to be prioritized, and so have you all done the fifth bridge? I mean, is it gonna be in South Laredo?
4, 5, South Laredo, yeah.
Whatever we wanna call it.
Yeah, fifth
Why don't
grade.
you call it Rio Bravo Bridge or something, because the 4, 5 sounds terrible.
Okay, well,
That's the diesel, whatever.
They're in the south.
South Bridge. So, if that's gonna be the place, you need to start putting the infrastructure in. Have a water plant we can sell you, because you're gonna need a lot of water back down there.
there's possibilities.
Let's talk.
Yeah. Okay, call for the question, we're deviating. I call for the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none heard, none seen, motion carries unanimously, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I know you have your presentation, go ahead, please.
Correct. Good afternoon, Roberto Rodriguez with TechStep. What I'm gonna be presenting is just some slides regarding the UTP Development Schedule. Every year, at the month of September, we start with the Unified Transportation Plan. And what the UTP is our next year of funding. So many times that's why you hear people, even in Texas saying, is it in the UTP, the project or not? What that means is, does it have construction funds? We're actually truly moving on this project. So for the MPO, the selection of the projects that we're gonna be working on and ranking, it's gonna be Category 4, Category 2, and Category 12. And I just wanna briefly cover these slides, what is it that's happening through the process, to arrive to the UTP adoption in August. Right now in October, they started with the funding distribution, and they already started calling the UTP project call. And what it is, the text that goes through the program, which is Decision Lens. We have a lot of projects from Laredo. They start ranking based on safety, accidents, crashes. The other one is preservation, preserving our current assets. And then we'll also have our performance measures as far as mobility, congestions, economic development. So between the months of October and February, that's when we call the UTP call, In November, the district UTP are starting program in Texas. And we start the programming on these projects on our database, on our system. But what is important for Laredo and the reason, we want to cover this topic now, it's the deadline that we have in January. Mid-January, the district needs to submit all the projects as a ranking. Now, one of the scoring criteria is the MPO ranking on these projects. I'm gonna show you at the end, the ranking that was provided last year based when Mr. Kirby was here. They were doing a survey and it was presented to the MPO and the RMA members. Everything got added together and Texas was able to present a ranking from the MPO. I'm gonna show you all the rankings from last year. So this is kind of very critical for us because by the mid-January, we need to come up with a ranking of the projects for Laredo. And like I said, these are gonna be competition for Category 2, 4, and 12. It's not Cat 7. Cat 7 is still an MPO funding category that is up to the MPO to decide what to do with those funds. But these other ones, they're going to go to competition statewide.
And do you all have your ranking, how you all would see them?
No, what we actually do, we get the MPO ranking, and then we come out with our ranking, which most of the times, I won't say last time, was very close to what the MPO, the preference of the MPO. So in February, we get our planning targets, and the division allow the district to make some revisions to the project, some last minute changes to the projects. And then in the end of February, we do a final submission of projects. And that's when the review starts from the commission. Throughout the time we were providing these projects to division, they are putting it into their system, they're scoring the projects to see which projects will have a better ranking, on the program. And then in April, the commissioner starts with the review. In June, they provided, they provide the approved list of projects, that will get money for the UTP. And then at the end of August, we get the UTP adopted with the funding. Now, 2023, it's a very important UTP. It's a very good UTP for Texas, because we have this new bill, infrastructure bill that got adopted. So Texas is expected to get additional funds. So this is the time when we really need to put our efforts, under the MPO to try to get us projects, into the funding, into this list.
We'll have close to 30 billion, more or less, or somewhere in there.
We are unsure yet, Mayor, as far as how many dollars we'll be getting or allocated to certain districts. We're still running through that, working those numbers out.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it'll be a time before we know how much this district gets, right? Well, it's 30 billion for the state, right?
Correct. This, what you'll see on the screen right now is the ranking that was provided last year based on the scores from the surveys. We received, the first project was by Seeger Road. Number 2 was the construction of the Red Connector, number 4. From there, we went down to do Lomas del Sur and Sierra Vista overpasses, then a segment of the auto loop. The project that we were talking earlier today, which was the State of 20 States of the Cuatro Vientos, came out at number 7 back then. Now, what we have been working with the MPO is to have a workshop mid-January, because the first weeks of January, to provide the scoring criteria that the MPO could use, to score the projects for this new upcoming year.
So let me clarify this a little bit. So the ranking that you see here is the one that was put together by the workshop. I think the RMA was participant with this. Mr. Brown, correct? You were there? This ranking was put together with the workshop, okay? Just to clarify.
Correct. And we're gonna have another workshop in January for the MPO
What's the
members.
difference between 6 and 7, I guess? Construct overpass at Cerrito Lindo and then Mangana Height extension of Loop 20?
The
Well,
Magana extension is the one you're talking about.
The one where you make a
Number
right
7 is the one you were
So we can definitely
concerned
try to
about.
push that one
instead
forward.
of making
up
a
the
right.
list.
And what is that overpass at Cerrito?
That
Lindo?
overpass is just the interchange at Cielito Lindo.
At Cielito
The
Lindo.
existing intersection, you're making the overchange, as well as number 3 and 4, they're just overpasses at Lomas del Sur and Sierra Vista.
We need that Lomas del Sur for sure.
Mhm.
So in January, once you'll get an invitation for a workshop, from the MPO director to attend this workshop, so we can rank the projects again on the preference. Now, this is some pages I got it from the 2021 UTP actually. They put a nice step by step on how to Texas develop a UTP. So when you have a chance, be welcome to read this, and you see all the 10 steps on how do we get to the UTP, how the project gets funded into this list.
Currently, we've got, close to $1 billion either approved or.
Our current UTP for the next 10 years is $1 billion. I think currently under construction right now, we have $500 million under construction within the Laredo district. Now, bear in mind that the Laredo district also covers up north up to City Del Rio and Eagle Pass.
Yeah, but 80% of that is really Whip County, more or less 70%.
I will say that the population of the Laredo district, 300,000 are in Laredo, and the rest are in the outskirts of the Laredo district.
So would you repeat that again? It's $1 billion
I would say
committed within the
$1
next
million,
10 years?
approximately $1 million committed on the 10-year UTP.
Billion.
Billion.
Oh, B
1
with a B.
billion
Billion. That's correct.
for the next 10 years
That's
committed.
Oh, yeah, we heard that number before.
Yes.
That's $100 million.
Okay, and 500 currently under
Under
construction?
construction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I think that as to Commissioner point, we do need to increase where that number 7 is ranked, because we have big plans, and I'm not sure how quickly that outer loop and the alignment is gonna get done.
So you will have an opportunity, and I'm hoping you'll be there, Dr. Marte, at our next ranking workshop.
Guess I'm
so
gonna
you
have to be
can-
there.
Yes, sir.
So we're planning a workshop for January 12th. That's on a Wednesday.
Oh, this January?
That's the Wednesday before,
The following.
that's the Wednesday before the policy committee
Oh,
meeting.
God, yeah.
But I don't know if that works for everybody. On Wednesday the 12th, we can send that out and just make sure it works.
Right, okay then.
Thank you.
Well, do we-
Anything else on this?
Do we rank them by
We wanna do it
availability of
all-
right of
all
way, or
morning.
How do we do them?
Priority.
I think the basis right now is what we as a committee see is the priority for the city of Laredo. I mean, you can certainly pick off that Fourth Fork that I talked about. You know, there's lots of work to be done on 35. You have the US 83 35 intersection with that lot of growth. You have 33, 38 widening that also going to benefit the northern part, Mrs. Pettis area up there. You have Mines Road as well. You have 255.
So many.
You have 59, you have South 83. So prioritizing what our needs are now is gonna be key to this. I would love to tell you that we're gonna fund every single one of them, but unfortunately, the truth is that we are not.
But I'm saying,
So-
you know, as far as the workshop,
What information are we going to?
well, you're gonna get the information, like I say, but let's just say we have $30 million available. And this project's number 1, but project number 4 is, everything's ready to go,
So,
you know?
yeah, so we are gonna prioritize those projects. We'll come with a list. If the MPO has projects they wanna come, we'll certainly entertain those as well. And we're able to sit down and look at them. And it's hard for me to tell you that we have this much dollars, cause I don't know that quite yet. So we'll prioritize them and order a ranking, and then we'll take that route, and then from there, we'll start funding them as we see fit, either MPO dollars or Cat 2 or Cat 4 or Cat 12 dollars. If you recall, Mayor, 2 years ago, Category 12, we received quite a bit of number for the completion of Loop 20 project. I think in the
120
amount of $240 million,
240, yeah.
which was a blessing to receive.
But we
So,
can't spend it.
well, we're moving in that direction. Again, bear with us.
We're blocked again, you know?
Bear with us, you know, we're moving forward with the project. The money is allocated for that project, so there's no taking from it. It's there. So we're moving forward in that direction. You know, I would like to get everything completed before my time here is done. Unfortunately, I know that realistically, that is not gonna happen, but I'm hoping I can leave a footprint for the next generation of folks to come behind me.
You're a very young man, sir, so don't say that. We need it done faster than that.
And personally speaking, you've done so much for the,
Yeah,
for
I
the
appreciate
district.
that. Thank you.
Very much, thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention right away, the workshop, like the way we did it last year, we hosted the workshop and sent out a survey after. So I think that's gonna be similar this year. We'll try to do live polling or something. But that'll be critical for you all to get those surveys back. There'll be more information presented at that workshop. We're thinking of it being pretty much all morning, the way it was last year. But as Roberto mentioned, it's critical to get a ranking from the MPO, because that factors into TxDOT's final ranking when they submit their UTP.
Mr. Mendiva, can you
Yes.
get together with TxDOT and to Commissioner Guerra's point? Because we can prioritize by needs and wants, but it would help if we already have shovel-ready projects that are in line already, and it'll help us move them up, per se, the right-of-ways on certain projects. So if we can already have a clearer picture, it could help, you know,
Right, this is,
help us decide.
See, that's the thing too.
somebody tipped both of you off today because currently I'm happy to report that TxDOT has $185 million worth of shelf projects that we would be happy to share with you. If you choose to prioritize that, those are ready to go. So we have those
No,
available.
they're not W.
And we'll coordinate with TxDOT before the workshop.
I'll just smile, but we do have $185 million of shelf projects that are not in the UTP because they are not currently funded, that we could certainly look at prioritizing. But,
That's great news.
I mean,
Appreciate
that's
it.
good news.
And Mayor, I mean, just something I mentioned a long time ago to several people is, you know, I think the city needs to start a fund and start prioritizing some of these properties and buying them. Now, again, there's no guarantee that TxDOT will buy all of it from you or ever buy it, you know, but if we wait, these properties become more and more expensive. And I mean, this started with the bridge over Chacon Creek. Remember, we tried to get it done. So again, I think the city, several $1 million, I don't know what you all can afford, but at some point you need to set aside some monies and start buying these properties ahead until TxDOT gets all their ducks in a row, and then they, may or may not buy them. They're not obligated to buy it, but if the project goes forward, they're gonna buy it
For right away, you mean?
right away.
And I think the county should start thinking this along the same lines for like the outer loop
I
as well.
wholeheartedly agree. I think if, and again,
If the
if we
county-
could acquire right away, I think that's the smartest thing we can do.
Yeah, I think that would be, if the county can start looking for right of way into the outer, for the outer loop, I think that's gonna be,
I think you'll see a lot of that probably,
So,
some donations of that. probably.
so that's a lot, and I would like to add that the working relationship with TxDOT and the city, Mr. Ramon Chavez and staff, Mr. Mandive, has been tremendously going in the right track, right direction, not that it wasn't before, as far as long-term range planning between the city and TxDOT as well as the county, working with Judge Sano Tejada's staff, Mr. De Leon, and slips my mind. I know his initials and I don't know what they stand for. The full name.
LPG?
LPG, there you go. Working with him, I'm sorry, LPG, but I'm just happy and ecstatic about it. But it has been a good relationship. I think that it's no secret that working with city and the county together, because we just cannot handle all the mobility projects within the city and the county. Working together with our master plan so we know what's coming up, working with the code compliance with Mr. Chavez has been a tremendous asset for us, so we know which direction we're headed and how we can accomplish those goals. But I want to kudos to the staff within the city and the county itself. I really do
We have a good
appreciate
team going, and thank you for leading it as well, and
Thank you.
appreciate it.
that. It's my staff, it's not me. It's-
Team effort.
thank you, staff.
Without Texas, I've said, without you all's lead and guidance and money, especially the money part.
And of
we
course, the
won't be able to
RMA,
do the
Mr.
things
Brown,
we do.
I see you all agreeing. I worked with the RMA as well. It's been a blessing.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to all.
Moving on then, I guess going back to
Go to
A,
5A.
I think. Is
Yes,
a
we can go to
presentation by
5A.
Santec?
Are they available?
Yes. Thank you for bearing with us during the technical difficulties.
Good afternoon,
Good
Sasha. Can you hear us? It is our turn now.
Okay.
Who was that?
It is our turn.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome. Go ahead, please.
Let me share the presentation.
So you're a consultant, is it? Right.
Yes, we're a team, Able City and Stantec. We're working on El Metro operational analysis. This are our findings on our last delivery. So, Sasha, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Would you like to start or?
Well, sure, I can give a brief intro. So, good afternoon, my name is Sasha Pedjic. I'm the project manager for the assignment with El Metro. It is our pleasure to present today and walk you through the comprehensive operational analysis and some of the work that we've done. Next slide.
Yes.
So in terms of our agenda for today's meeting, we'll cover the scope of our project. We'll do the outreach and engagement summary, which Leslie will walk you through. Then we'll cover our background existing performance review of El Metro, our short-term network recommendations, coupled as well as our long-term recommendations, supporting recommendations and key performance indicators, and then next steps. So, from a project scope perspective, what we were retained to do as the Stantec team was to really devise a plan for El Metro that's, future focused, one that looks at efficiency and effectiveness, looks at the routes and types of services that the agency is running. Their schedules, also looks at the frequency of service and accessibility across the system. Our project had 8 tasks, the first being stakeholder engagement, Second, background data analysis. Third, system efficiency and effectiveness review. Fourth is our gaps analysis that looks at where we want to go in the future and how we get there. Task 5 was the network plan that looks at some of the system updates that we were suggesting. Task 6, supporting recommendations. Task 7, our implementation plan and approach. And last, scheduling and run cutting, which is done after we have everything finalized.
Thank you, Sasha. In this part, Able City worked with Stantec to provide public and stakeholder engagement. So in the first round, what we wanted was to listen. So we launched an online survey, bilingual, and this was during the COVID-19 contingency. So we carried on a virtual public meeting along with another three stakeholder group meetings and focus group meetings with advocacy groups, community development organizations, college representatives, and other active transportation community members. The
That's your
stakeholder
phone?
groups,
No,
yes?
That was your phone ringing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm to pick up my kid from school, not today. The stakeholder groups were divided into two, leadership and technical committee. During that first virtual meetings, we gathered our initial gatherings, but we were getting very little responses for the online surveys. So trying to bump up those numbers, we decided to do a printout version of that, and we moved on to round 2, where we did a downtown transit center pop-up, where we engaged the riders person to person, and we talked to them directly, English, Spanish, whatever it took, and then we could get actual rider responses to this, for this gatherings. So then we met again with stakeholder meetings. We merged the leadership and the technical committees to have both inputs, at the same time, so that if there were any opinions that could perhaps be contradictory among leadership and technical, could be heard between each other. And then for round 3, we were informing. We were informing the public, we were informing the stakeholder groups as well, and we put together another downtown transit pop-up for the riders as well, and for the students at TAMU, which was a population that we were not getting traction from, so we wanted to hear from them as well.
And you only got the 30-plus students, 30-plus riders, downtown 35, and then online 370?
Well, we got 370 online surveys filled out, English and Spanish, from both riders, non-riders.
Better than your pop-up.
Sorry?
I'm surprised
Yes.
it's better than your pop-up.
Yes, because it's one by one. It's trying to engage riders that are going to their jobs, that
That's it.
don't want to stop,
No.
so we are very, very thankful for all the people that gave us their input. Actually, the students were very engaging too. So they were really happy to learn about all the opportunities that El Metro provide for them. Some of them didn't know.
What's the daily ridership? And if you have that in your presentation, I'll wait. Because I'm curious
Yeah.
to see what the daily average.
Stantec, are you there, Sasha? The daily ridership? Or Claudia, would you like to?
Mayor, I have a question also.
As I don't have that number off the
It's
top of
less
my
than
head.
10,000, it's like 9,000 a day
9,000 a day?
before the pandemic.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you surveyed them before they got on their route? Was there anybody like maybe on the route talking to them while
We
they
got
were
on the
riding?
buses and also conveyed some of the surveys on the buses as well.
How many did you do on the buses?
On the buses, I don't remember if they were like 10 of them or 15, but it was a very long effort. During COVID, we were getting very little responses online, so that's why we did the printout version. For Lyft riders, it was even harder, but we reached out to some of the clinics that sometimes get Lyft riders and provided printout versions as well for them.
Because if there's 10,000 riders a day and you have somebody surveying on the buses,
I know.
I don't see why you wouldn't get more response
That
while
number-
they're on the ride, and they can just answer the
That
question.
number that you mentioned was pre-pandemic, and I know the stakeholder input was during the pandemic, so that might be some of the
It was
variation
during
there.
the contingency. It wasn't the same number of riders.
So is this data statistically significant?
Well, this is the findings that we have at the moment. But we think that it is representative of the people that ride El Metro, because the people that rode El Metro, even through the pandemic,
Yeah,
you know, that is your rider.
But if you have 10,000 riders a day and you only have 500 responses, can you even extrapolate that out?
It
what
is
you're saying
nice.
is that during the pandemic, you may have only had 5,000 or 2,000 riders. We don't know.
4,000.
4,000 riders, they're saying, so.
Yes.
So that's your true,
Proportion of
who she
people.
got from is your true customer that's not abandoning you,
think-
whereas the others found alternate
We
ways.
had 4,000.
And we can let them go through the presentation, but when we're doing these type of planning studies, I know this was done by consultants, but you know, with a planning background, I mean, you do try to reach that statistical significance in your surveys. That's only a part of your data collection, right? You're looking at existing studies, you're looking at existing plans, you're looking at many different things to inform your recommendations. So I think when the consultants went ahead and provided their recommendations, they took that into account, right? The type of data that they got and the significance of it. So maybe further along in the presentation, maybe they can speak to that a bit. But I think these recommendations are not just solely based on that itself, but it definitely informs it. But sometimes it is difficult to reach that statistical significance. It's more about the engagement and listening to people. Sometimes the qualitative, anecdotal stuff also helps inform
Also too,
the
along
planner's
those lines,
recommendations.
excuse for interruption, you know, along your presentation, that, you know, once you get to the point that whether we're adequately equipped or overly equipped, personally speaking, I see those big buses with 3 or 4 people, and I've been keeping an eye on that for years. And this is leaving, you know, the.
But it could be time.
No, and I see them in the mornings and the afternoons.
Because you got-
This is just my,
You may have the 8 AM or 7 AM bus full, and then be empty the rest of the day.
well, that
You
could
got
be,
some peak times.
but, you know, obviously data and the study will indicate, you know,
It was
differently.
very interesting, actually. During the first focus group meetings that were virtual, we got nearly non-riders. But the advocacy groups were very enthusiastic and were trying to provide all sorts of ideas on how to engage option riders, people who can choose to ride the bus instead of driving. And they were full of ideas, and it was really interesting, but we were not getting, you know, they said the same thing. They said, I see buses with only 3 people. Why is that?
Well, the bus driver just, you know, taking trips back and
But
forth.
if you ask the people in the morning riding the bus, those buses are not empty. And most of the times they.
What time is that, more or less?
It is, the peak time, it is around 7 AM, 7 and 8 AM.
Okay, maybe you're, yeah, and obviously you're right, because I usually see them.
Everything's, you know, the dynamics have changed, and so I remember there at Mall del Norte, the buses would come full, but then they'd leave empty, you know, so, and they continue their route. Now, I don't think that's the case anymore, you know, the malls have really slowed down, everything really.
So the numbers, I guess we're just speculating here.
And this
What do
summer-
the numbers show? And go ahead, please.
And this is to get a feel of the people, what they think about El Metro, what are their experiences, how do they engage with El Metro, do they understand it, how to use it. So it is not necessarily in that way for data analysis to provide everything, but it is important to understand where they're coming from and where people are at the moment. So what we found out from the rider priorities regarding frequency of rides versus walking distance to the bus stations, over 60% prefer more frequent rides rather than, even if it takes them a little longer, you know, to walk, a longer walk to their bus stop. They prefer frequency. And regarding travel time and transfers, what would they prefer? A shorter travel time overall, even if it requires transfers, or less transfers, even if it implies a longer ride.
That's 50/50, really.
Yeah. And they preferred slightly. Over half preferred a shorter travel, even if they would have to travel between routes to accomplish it. Now, in this one in particular, we do have to say the population that we engaged with these questions, many of them were retired. I'm sorry. Many of them were retired or elderly. They were not rushing to a job, you know? So they told us, no, I don't mind if my travel time takes longer. It's okay. I wouldn't want to transfer. I don't care if my travel time is longer, because these are people that were not rushing to work, for starters. So that is a little caveat to
Did you
the
have
findings that we
any,
did.
did you have a section of applications or that filled out the form that were people that were riders going to work every day?
Yes, we have the
Or students.
demographics included in the raw data. You can look at
So did
it.
you separate them out to see if they had
Yes.
a trend?
Now, for non-riders, the main reason they said why not ride El Metro, of course, is they have a car. So they have a car, why would I ride El Metro? And then, of course, the second reason was my trip would be too long, or I really don't know how to use it. I don't know where to get a ticket, or if I should get like a card, or I don't know how to use it. And
that goes to your point.
many people said, you know, there should be an app. Well, there is an app, you know, but people were not very familiar with how to use El Metro in general. When we asked them about the bus stops near their homes, they all knew where they are. So it's not that necessarily, but familiarity with the use of El Metro. So that is what we found.
If I may,
And these are snippets only, but of course, if you want to look at the raw data, it's all yours.
when you said that they don't know, I know the raw data, you may have other information. They don't know the routes, or they don't know?
They don't know if they can pay with a credit card, if they need to have like exact like coins, or like
I
how
couldn't tell you how
to,
much it costs.
how
Have
to
have
use it,
the exact points.
how to transfer, how to use it. So, you know, it's just easier to use your
I
card.
have noticed, when I go to major cities, I use public transit. I just jump on board, and whether it's in
Yes.
Mexico or in.
But not
big city,
here.
Not here. But anywhere else, I will grab, and then I'll look at a map and it will say, okay, you can go to the yellow line to the red line, then take the green line,
Exactly.
and then, you know, I figure it out. We don't have any of those maps here, on any step, in any stop.
El Metro does, actually,
All the
they do
stops
have their tracking
Around
system.
my area, I don't see them. Is there any maps in any?
Yes, they can tell
Probably just a
you
cover,
approximately
not the
when
one with
you're,
the pole.
You mean a
Your
physical
bus
map?
will-
Yeah, physical map.
I'm not sure if they have any, but not on the bus or on the bus stops.
on the bus stops, no.
But
Yep, well, the app is not that, great.
Easy to move.
User friendly.
they're still, I just want to mention, I mean, there's,
And you cannot, and you have to have exact change, which is.
That is vent.
Gonna
Okay.
I know
keep,
there's more presentations. just
you all
like
can vent at the
for-
MPO.
Yeah.
I think this is eventually coming to city council for
okay.
action, so you all can vent here.
Okay, yeah.
No, I
Well,
just, I wanted to
can we-
mention,
Let's see the recommendations.
yeah,
Well, just to close up, you know, the findings here, what we mostly heard about is they sometimes complained about the low frequency in existing routes, the lack of pedestrian infrastructure, something not related to El Metro, but nonetheless saying, you know, I don't use El Metro because just walking to the bus stop it feels dangerous to me. I don't feel safe in the sidewalk that we have. The
Or there is no
crosswalks-
sidewalk.
the crosswalks are not good enough, or, you know, they don't feel safe walking toward the bus stop.
So there's one there on Calle del Norte, right there in front of the man property, and just, you know, they just stop on the road. There's no
So what
sidewalk on that
alternative do they
side.
have, just use their car, is that it?
Well,
They're gonna
those,
use a car if they have a car.
many of this,
Well, that's what I mean, if you truly have a need, you'll find a way
Of
to get to
course.
the bus stop and make it work. If you don't, you hitch a ride somewhere
Exactly.
else, yeah.
if you truly need it, do
You'll
what
find a
it
way,
takes.
yeah, but of course you
And-
wanna make it easier for them too.
Exactly,
Well-
the choice riders.
There's, like, for example, on Shiloh, you know, if you're gonna go to the Gateway Clinic, your bus stops across the street, but then there's no way, you have to go all the way to a crosswalk,
To
which
find a crosswalk.
it's kind of, you know, we do need to look at those types of things.
Exactly.
So overall, what's our population that uses the bus on a frequent basis? 9,000-10,000 people,
Is it back up to what it was before, pre-pandemic? No.
Not anymore.
so 9,000-10,000 of our citizens use the El Metro period?
It has not,
I'm sorry?
pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, yeah, okay.
And then you gotta remember, probably the biggest users are still not allowed to cross.
Mm-hmm.
They were crossing.
Many of them.
People from.
So, pues, they are?
They're crossing.
No, they're, not all of them. They're
Not all of
very,
them.
very strict with the visas right now, and they're revoking visas, and people are free.
And there are no
Mhm.
appointments for tourist visas at the moment,
Okay.
so.
So for 10,000 people, what's the asset value? I mean, how much of a system, how much are we
Losing to,
using to satisfy 10,000 people?
How much are we subsidizing essentially? Is that
Well,
what
it's- But it's governments, I mean, it's not the city, you know?
No, we're,
No,
we're
okay.
subsidizing?
Huh?
okay.
Yeah.
I think that if I remember this.
So let's
was
say you have
one of
those
the higher
answers,
yield
yeah, go
let
ahead.
me move, past
Yeah.
the feedback, and then Sasha can enlighten
Yeah,
you in the rest of the recommendations. Land use, in general, should support transit as well. People have mentioned that in the stakeholder groups. The desire for an app to purchase fares, accessibility and improvements for people with disabilities, especially from the visually impaired population, were very outspoken. Greater community education is needed to increase awareness of El Metro services and how to ride, especially regarding student population, and coordination with local and regional stakeholder plans. So these were the main topics that we discussed. But moving past this, I'll leave this to Sasha to go into depth on the findings and the recommendations.
Yeah, thanks, Leslie. I have a bit of an issue because I have a hard stop in 4 minutes, and I know we started late here, so, is it possible you can carry through it, and Brian, Cooper will be on the call for answer questions?
Sure, we
Apologies.
can do that. So, do you want me to continue, and then when Brian joins, he'll follow up? Or you are starting?
Now you can continue, and Brian will answer questions as they arise, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I'll continue. The background and existing conditions analysis. So, as you all know, Laredo's downtown is core, is dense and mixed use, it's a grid. So, of course, it works perfectly fine for transit. The problem comes, of course, with development of suburbia and modern urbanism in general after World War II. So then transit is not as effective and it's not as easy to access for everybody. So we found that 3 key routes are the most frequent and carry 27% of the whole of all ridership. El Metro's key markets are transit.
Which of those 3?
I'm going.
Okay.
El Metro's key markets are transit critical populations, but which of course have no other choice. Students, seniors, and people with few alternatives to transit for mobility needs. This is interesting because we had one question in the survey that said, what would you do if El Metro was not available? And it was incredibly tone deaf. Most people told us we would not be able to do anything. You know, it's pointless for you to ask me this because,
You're an extremely
oh
popular
my
person.
gosh.
Your child is waiting for its school.
Excuse me. So they don't have any other alternative. That's what we meant. So ridership and productivity. 4 routes carry nearly 1/3 of all ridership. That is 1, 2A, and 3. The most productive routes are 16 and 1. And the routes with the greatest ridership in 2019 also had the greatest ridership in 2020. So that is stable. The challenges are some of the rail crossings, of course, and the low-density areas. We have very high-density areas that are underserved, but then again, the lower density areas need service as well, but they are not as productive, and they are very hard to serve. So El Metro Network Plan and vision and objectives includes to strengthen the core services, simplify the network, match service levels with demand, attract riders to transit, plan for the future, make transit inclusive and accessible to all, and create seamless connections. The short-term network recommendations proposed network map features more areas served, now serving Lakeside, Jackman Road, Cuatro Vientos, Ejido Avenue, and new circulator C4 and microtransit services, which you guys are very well aware of. And this new area near the Walmart. The long-term needs are the North Hub, with the purpose to facilitate transfers between bus lines that are accessible, better waiting experience for customers, and a multi-modal hub. The long-term needs is the South Hub in Lomas del Sur. I'm sorry, let me know if I'm going too fast. Okay.
No, it's fine.
Long-term network concepts and the proposed concept features uses pulsing at multiple hubs to support shorter waiting times, more accessible, more access to opportunities, improved frequency on key routes. It simplifies routing, reduces redundancy, and adopts a service hierarchy to enhance legibility of the network. Leverages family of services, a fixed route, paratransit, and microtransit. Maintains productive routes of current network, like routes 1 to A and B, 16, etc. El Metro Comprehensive Operational Analysis Plan goals: improve transit service, incremental improved transit service through strategic actions targeting reliability and frequency while preparing for network.
I don't think you need to read all that.
Exactly. Okay. And you have it already, right?
I mean, really the problem with public transit is it usually doesn't initiate or rarely initiates where you are and rarely takes you to where you want to go. I mean, with very minor exceptions, you know, if you're coming downtown rider or crosser going to the mall, you know, or if it goes to the hospital, you know, so, because otherwise it's going to drop you off at the entrance to a subdivision, and then you have to walk however far it is to that subdivision, because it usually does not go into many subdivisions.
The last mile to go.
Yes.
I remember as a kid, you know, we rode the bus all the time. We'd take it to 2 blocks from my house. You got on the 35 cents or whatever it was. Nickel, and we came downtown and dropped us right here at the movies.
And for me, it's the efficiency as well, you know, the size of the bus versus if it merits a full bus in the morning, by all means.
Actually, that is why El Metro is proposing the smaller microtransit areas for lower density regions of the city.
And having more frequent, at least, and maybe you need to see during what hours. Maybe it's only need to be frequent, you know, 7 to 8, And then the frequency, maybe it's every 10 minutes and then it can go to every half hour, I don't know what the scheduling would be like, it could be a nightmare for trying to do it, but I'm saying those.
Well, we know we got the experts at the back, we have some stuff here, but, I mean, I just wanna,
Do we have a quorum?
didn't we, I mean, haven't we seen, I would ride the pesetas and Matamoros all the time. I mean, they were small, and they were frequent, and they were full. But they're,
Every day.
I don't understand. I mean, we had to stand up. I mean, our system is so vastly different than what we have right across the border. And right across the border, it's literally pesetas. And they're nonstop, they move all the time. And so when we start.
Jump on, jump off.
You jump on, you jump off. And everybody rides them because they're so frequent. They get a peseta, and they get otra peseta, and they just move, right? And so people say, well, it doesn't take me that long to get over there. And lleva la peseta hasta aquí.
But you don't have the number of vehicles over there that you have anywhere in Mexico.
Exactly, there is greater need over there too.
You're right, but there's also greater convenience.
There are greater needs and it's more irregular over there. Here, we have lots of regulations that save lives, that makes everything very efficient, but in the end, sometimes.
And you don't have the density.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're not pulling up to a high rise where you have a chance of, having, 1,000 people come out or whatever.
Did you all evaluate it by routes? For example, this route and your recommendation for this route, maybe cut back here or add here,
We wanna see the recommendations.
Yes.
per route, I guess.
Well, they already gave you two, they wanted 2 more hubs.
Yeah, we already put in a grant for the first hub, and we overmatched it.
Yes.
Yeah, how many routes do we have to begin with? Do you know?
Hold on 1 second. Let me see. It's just, I want David to explain it to you, because that is his
Yeah, hi,
area.
this is David. How's it going?
Great.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
yeah.
We'll just do a Uber too.
So a lot of these questions that you're asking are really fleshed out in the report that we submitted, talking about the different routes, talking about the trade-offs for transit, the decision-making around transit, and really the need to make a decision, if this is what we decide to do as a council, as a community, and then the investments and where that needs to go to maximize your ridership, or if your whole goal is to move people, where to do it. So, where we could talk about a number of routes, or the routes that go here, or somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe for
A lot
city
of that's
council,
fleshed
yeah.
out, all of that's fleshed out in the report.
Okay, yeah, we'll look at that.
Submitted.
Yeah, for city
And
council,
so I
maybe.
think the recommendations here are really trying to nibble at the edges, but also provide a holistic view, like you've all been saying, is talking about sidewalks and infrastructure that are important parts of the customer's trip.
Yeah, can we, when we get into the city council level, what I would like to see is the cost effectiveness per route. And I'm not saying that we'll remove that route, I'm just saying, where are we spending more than what we need to? And then maybe we can adjust by smaller vehicles or widening the frequency or whatever, because we need to see where the costs are to begin with, at least from my end. Yeah.
David,
We tried
would
to
you
do
like
that a
me
long
to
time
return
ago.
to any of the slides?
We didn't.
No, I think the recommendation slide is where you want to be.
You want to continue, David, with measuring performance specifically?
Yeah, so maybe this is where we kind of provide some guidance around what the items are that El Metro wants to be measuring to therefore get on the right track in terms of,
No, go to the recommendations.
Options plan.
We know what you wanna do.
A lot of these elements were worked through our stakeholder workshop, but also.
Yeah, hold on.
Hey, David, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, no, it's hard to communicate, but I think, we need to really get to the meat of it.
Let's go to the recommendations.
Okay, okay. David, sorry to interrupt you. They want to go straight into the recommendations. I mean, those were it. These are the measuring performance
Well, I mean, that's not a
mechanisms,
recommendation,
and
increase.
these are the supporting
Yeah, those are generally,
recommendations.
for example, for city council, if you could, need specific, we're spending so much for this route, and we're only getting this one for this route.
Mayor, man,
Yes.
Did you get that, David?
again,
Yeah, it's all in the report, right? And
Yeah.
Metro presents that regularly, I'm assuming, right, with your cost for route, and then the ridership for route and cost for boarding, or ridership for boarding, right? I mean,
So-
this is not, I think we have this is captured.
In the report.
Okay.
David, you know, we're looking at these and I guess what we want, and this is Marta Martinez, nice to meet you. For instance, A1, implement route adjustments. Yeah, we know.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
All right, so we
Let me
could have
do it
said
for
that,
Yeah.
maybe not in as pretty of colors, but we could have said that as well. And so what does that mean? What are the details of what
Hold
that
on.
particular adjustment means?
Which route are you adjusting?
Which route, how many routes, what are the adjustments that you want?
The cost involved.
Yeah, and so those are the things that we're looking at, because, yeah, it's very basic, yeah, we need to adjust routes. Well, we're aware, that's why we're doing this.
Okay.
Can we go
Yeah,
back to those?
no, of course. But
Can we go
that's
back
why-
to the recommendations,
Yeah, so
please?
the short-term routes there are being adjusted is the shift of Route 8B, the elimination of Route 12, I believe it was, and then the new route, Route 18, the circulator Route C4. Again, it looks obvious, of course, but the plan goes into all that detail. So we wanted to have a brief discussion with you all to give you the highlights, not really get into
These are the
details, but all the
recommendations.
details are in the plan. So even though we say adjust routes, of course, that's a high-level recommendation, and then we have specific recommendations in the plan for the short term. We have long-term concepts, and then we have considerations for future implementation of the North Hub as well as the South Hub and microtransit solutions as well.
I know, but you got these
So
pretty.
they're in there.
Oh, sorry.
I said, you got these pretty headlines and we want to improve efficiency. But that's why we did this. We know that's what we want to do. You know, there's all these
Can you-
things,
can
like
you
I
go
said,
back to
we
the
just want to talk
recommendations?
about, no, that's what, it's just a
No, the
supports
other-
of
the
recommendation.
other recommendations.
No, it's not the
There's
recommendation.
no specific.
I think it would help if you go to this next steps to show a
Like-
timeline.
Right here,
So
go
what's happening,
back.
there might be some confusion. What happened is, on December 6th, as you see that, like in that last year, David, right? They did present short-term network to the Mass Transit Board, but I don't know, they had a chance, an opportunity to actually present at that meeting. So then they're bringing the draft of
But
the entire plan to the MPO committee, just as a presentation and to get your feedback.
What's the plan?
Well, I didn't see anything in that plan.
Where's
We're
the
gonna
plan?
improve efficiency, and we want to get feedback from riders, and we want to serve more people. We know that. There was, none of
The
that needs to
report
be
is
written
very
down.
extensive,
Huh?
and the report is very extensive.
Where's the
Maybe
report?
you can extrapolate some of
Where's
that.
the report? But going like back to that, the thing where you showed the change in route, there's no legend there. I couldn't see what
Okay.
you.
For example, when you amend a route, and for me, is it gonna cost us more or is it gonna cost us less? Is there efficiency there by making that amendment? You know, for a decision maker, that's usually the first thing, money. If you're amending and it's more ridership and less cost for us,
So,
wonderful.
yeah, what is C4? You got C4 there, what is it doing? I see dark purple, I see a dashed purple. So is the dash what you're adding, dash is not what you're adding, I don't know.
So, for example, for C4, what we had before was line 14 all going through here. I don't know if you can see at the screen.
No,
I'm
'cause we can't see on
trying to
this
scratch it down.
I see it,
but
I
you
see the
know it,
solid
right?
one.
So by doing this circulator here, it will improve frequency times. And David, do you have other numbers as well, right? Are you there?
Will it
So the idea here is that the short-term network is going to be cost neutral from what you operate today. And that we're in the process of doing the scheduling and run study. And, yeah, so for the short term, there's no, change in revenue hours is the parameters.
Okay, Route 18, same thing?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question, please?
It's Route 18, is Route 18. The one that changes, it was from,
You're going to Lakeside now.
exactly, we were eliminated 12A and extending 18.
Right, yeah, so it could be a reallocation of vehicles and the revenue hours.
I mean, let's see. Lakeside to downtown is going to be a MAID bus. right?
It is going to be microtransit connecting with,
It's gonna be a housekeeper bus, right? That's all it's gonna be.
So is that a
So-
cost reducer or a cost neutral or a cost enhancer?
David, did you hear that?
So it's gonna,
Is that, no, can you repeat that question, please?
If it's a cost reducer, cost enhancer,
Neutral or
neutral,
enhancer?
or if
Is
it's,
it gonna
increase,
cost us-
decrease, or cost neutral?
all three are supposed to
For
be neutral.
microtransit?
No, the new
Yeah,
route,
so-
18, new route number 18.
Well, there's no
Oh,
president then.
no, I thought we were talking about Lakeside, no.
That,
Oh,
it says right
Lakeside.
there, new route to Lakeside, Route 18.
It's a wash, it comes out as a wash, right? Because we're removing service on that 12B, apologies, I can't see the screen. So again, 18, excuse me. So the Route 18, right, the reallocation of Route 12A vehicles and service hours. So this short-term plan, the short-term network, right, is intended to be cost neutral with what you're currently operating.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you go back one more time to the recommendations, like that slide where you had three different things?
Yes,
No, the other one, further, right
this
there.
one.
No, that's what,
Yeah, no, go back to that one.
supporting recommendation, that's what they did to support recommendation.
It's to implement the route
These are not the
adjustments.
These are more policy recommendations. So you have a short-term network recommendations, just minor adjustments right now to the existing network to remain staying cost neutral. But they're also recommending, once you have those hubs, the north hub, the south hub, there's a long-term bus network that they are recommending, and that is in the report. That's kind of what this presentation was going to speak to. And these recommendations before you, these are your policy recommendations. So things that the city, the MPO, and Metro should be working on to implement through policy. So you have those three things: the short-term bus network, the long-term bus network, and then these policy recommendations.
All right, we presented this at council, right? Well, we didn't even present it, but we adopted it at council,
And
right?
it was way shorter. It was even shorter than this one. It's supposed to be one little snippet. It's not the whole report, which is a draft.
Council adopted the short-term network recommendations because they
Which
needed,
were the
they needed
three-
that so they can move forward with the run cutting for the scheduling. So that's a component of this study. What council hasn't approved yet, which you're still pending, is the long-term network and these policy recommendations.
So those
overall
three
plan.
net neutral things were what we adopted this last,
Correct.
what was it, last Monday
Yes, at council.
at council,
Yeah,
right?
and that's what they were gonna, that presentation was gonna be different than this one because it was gonna be specific
Yeah,
to
we
those
don't-
network
we don't-
recommendations.
Yeah,
So I think that's why there's some confusion here.
Well, let's- All right, well, do we have to adopt anything here?
The MPO doesn't have to adopt anything. We help pay for the state for the Metro, but it's the mass transit board that takes that final action.
Let me just ask you, what do you think the viability of mass transit going forward here in suburbia? In Texas in general, probably, because where you have urban sprawl versus New York City or somewhere else.
David, do you have any input regarding
It
Suburbia?
seems like it's getting worse, you
Transit?
get with Uber and everything else
It is
coming
very
online.
complicated.
Electric bikes, electric,
David, are
What's
you?
your goal? Is your goal to move people and to give members of your community access opportunities for those who don't have cars, those who don't have incomes to access cars and access other means of transportation? And if those are your goals, the support for transit is clear. Of course, you're not New York City. All cities in the United States are not New York City. So that's a very unequal comparison.
No.
No.
What he's asking is, how do you provide efficient public
No,
transit?
my question
to
is,
suburbia?
how do you see public transfer moving forward with Uber and all these other things coming
Oh, with
online?
competitors?
Well, I'm just saying, in general, I see mass transit going down, because there are becoming multiple other items available that are much more efficient.
There are options. There are options and, it's,
So again, because,
the more options you have to access the mobility, the better quality of life you have. That is. a
correct, but
given.
I'm
But-
asking a very generalized question
Yes.
because, again, I think my prior statement is, very rarely does mass transit take you from where you wanna be to where you wanna go. You have to walk there or somehow get there.
Last
And then they
mile.
drop you off not where you wanna be.
I think that's
You're hoping somewhere close.
I think those are very valid points, and I think what you're saying is that, you know, you need to become more flexible with your transit. If you want to be competitive, and if you want to reduce congestion and have more people ride transit, you need to give them
Well, I understand you.
flexibility, right? That way you have, it needs to be just as efficient as driving a car.
Well, you can be as flexible as you want as long as you got unlimited money. But I'm saying to do it within, like I say, if you're, serving now, maybe you're staying at 6,000 riders instead of 10,000 riders because the other ways have found an alternate way and they've become accustomed to it. So I'm just saying, I see this as something that's gonna get less and less and less and less, or let's just say less efficient as we move forward.
I just want to make a few comments on that. So just depending, Jason, also for the record, MPO planner. So as you're designing your city, your land use is going to dictate how much densities you have. Is correct? And so the further we grow out, the more infrastructure we'll need to put: water, sewer, roads, police, fire. So that will reach a certain capacity if you don't have the taxing base to support that. So as if we reduce continually growing out, as RICO's trying to densify, we're trying to aim at increasing those densities. We're not going to get the large adoption because of all the options that are out there. I do agree I will say if we increase densities, our numbers will go up, but they'll probably hit a threshold, right? Because of a lot of people wanting to take other options. It's not the route they need, but as we're planning for everybody. We're for the ones that have and the have-nots. And so a lot of this funding and going forward for the infrastructure bill will be supportive of environmental justice, right? We don't have a lot of variety in our demographics, but they're looking at us, how are we planning for the people that don't have it, the same means? And so mass transit serves that need to get those funding dollars. It will not reach the numbers you're probably expecting or would like to see, as many others would, but it still needs to be a service that we provide, and maybe we go to more efficient, right, smaller vehicles and the more frequencies, so that way it's something that becomes attractive to others. But if we don't get a little more flexible and change from what we currently have, then we'll continue dropping significantly as time goes forward.
All right, so I'm gonna make just a quick criticism because I think it's, I wanna say it. How much did this plan cost us?
The plan was, was 235,000.
Okay, so we had a plan of, we spent $235,000 on this approximately. And the data that we got is 370 plus 70. We got 440 responses. Couple meetings, 3 meetings, and we spent $230,000. And what we got were recommendations such as, go back to that list, these short-term things here. I don't know if this was done by traffic people. I don't know if this was done just because, hey, this makes sense. I think this was really not a wise investment at this point.
This is just the short-term recommendations.
But
We
I get
have
it,
a
but
very
we-
long list.
I get it. I just think that we've made a very long list with, 400 people that we talked to. And I'm just concerned that I think we could have used these monies to pave a ton of roads or,
Not a new bus.
buy a new bus. I don't understand what
Those
we
funds
got
were-
out of this.
Those funds were specifically funds that we use for studies. The contract was entered into, I think, last year. A lot of these short-term recommendations came about of things that I know that were discussed at council, right? So, and Metro staff discussing with the consultants. Council wants these.
Well,
These are
that's what
council
I'm saying,
priorities.
these are things that council brought to the table, like the circulator program I brought to the table, the circulator for Councilmember Cigarroa brought to the table, the microtransit we brought to the table. What was done here? I mean, these are things that council brought that are now being called recommendations from this group, but well, we already did them.
And
this
that's
is
why
what
they
we
split
did.
it into short-term and long-term. Because there were some other recommendations for that long-term, but they're like, we can't realistically implement them now without
Okay.
those hubs.
It's,
I'm not gonna say anything else, thank you.
Let me just say one thing. The data gathered, it is extensive. To include it in a presentation, it would require a very, very long time to present. Now, we can do that if you want to, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Yes, it is in the meeting
I would
packet.
like to have gotten something before I'm presenting with like pretty pictures, and this gives me no information on what decisions we're supposed to make. I don't work off of pretty pictures, I work off of data, and that's how I make decisions.
That's perfect, and we have that data, so no
From
problem.
my standpoint, it's
Betty.
efficiency, cost efficiency.
Mhm.
There's gotta be a money component there to really make sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But
You can
Mayor, I
have
think you're
that.
gonna find out that when you, moving forward, and I went through this before, there's all these hoops that you have to go through, and you have to fund them,
No,
and because
it's a process.
that's what the government wants you to do.
No, and we understand that, but if we can be more efficient and subsidizing less, because we do subsidize, and I've always said it that.
And if you subsidize less, they
We get
make,
less,
no, they give you bigger hoops. No,
No, and
we went through
this is a service that the city needs.
Yes,
For
we are.
example, trash collection, perhaps one day will not be.
an enterprise fund where you charge and you get a service back. This is not.
Yes,
This
but
is,
it
they
is not meant to
subsidize
be a
it, but the government
business.
tells you, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do it in this way, and you're gonna fund
Mm-hmm.
these studies, and here's the money over here that you're gonna use for these studies, and it's kind of a little,
So it's always more and more and more.
like I said.
Yes, but this is
You
a
know,
vulnerable
but I think-
population.
Yeah.
Microbuses probably, you know,
We'll send you the report, it's very detailed, 260 pages, about 260 pages.
And
We'll send that
I
to
will
you.
withhold all judgments until I read that. I apologize. I
No,
will
that
withhold
is
all judgment,
fine.
But what I'm being presented here does not merit what I see, but when I get the data, I will, so I will withhold judgment.
No, and you're right. I think that perhaps they should get the information
Yeah,
before
yeah, we'll
we
send it
present,
right
so
after.
that we can then have more specific questions.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you for your report, and I think I need to
And-
move on.
yes,
I think that's it for now, Mayor. Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it,
For your
thank you. Moving on to the D, and then director's comments.
Yes.
Status on the RMA, status report. Yeah, I was gonna say, suggest if anything new, and I think we're all familiar with, the projects, the three projects.
I do have some questions for him.
Sure, go ahead.
Glenn,
Judd Brown for the record again, RMA Chair. Yes, sir.
Welcome again.
yes, I know, that I got a call the other day, and they said, well, what do you wanna do on the fairground study? And I said, well, what do you mean, what do we wanna do? Want somebody to study the ingress and egress there, what makes sense? You know, they wanted to meet with us, I said, what is there to meet about? I mean, we have, I think, is it Henry Clay Boulevard that goes to the Boy Scout camp? And you have 59, you know? That's all we got.
Yeah, and there's a meeting tomorrow morning of all the key players. We were trying to get direction from the county on who we were supposed to be meeting with. Took us a few weeks to get that information. We got it now, so.
Well, like I say, I don't even know who you're supposed to meet with, because like I said, they called me to go to the meeting, I said, but what is it, what you want from me? I said, we have those two routes, how do we best, you know, before we build this thing,
Let's have the meeting tomorrow morning. We can report back to you on where we're going from there.
I won't be there.
What's that?
I won't be there.
Yeah, well, if you want information, I guess we can give you some meeting notes from what we talk about tomorrow. I'll be traveling, but I'll be participating as I drive, listening to all the discussion, but it'll be with the engineer that's been hired by the county that's spearheading the project, the RMA, and the group we've procured to produce the
Well, I think
study.
you need text on, I mean, because we need to find out what their plans are, see
You
where.
know, David, do you know if y'all are involved in that? If not, I'll make sure that
Are you talking about me? I will be there.
you will, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just want to see how, you know, what's their footprint in the future, so we don't go build a nice, beautiful wall and then say, oh, we gotta tear it down for the, you know, change the footprint.
I think tomorrow's the start of that project moving forward with all the people, it sounds like, that need to be there to make decisions, to write another report that costs a bunch of money that, I'm kidding. But
No, you're not.
It's something that is meaningful, or meaningful, and the word we used last time is actionable, so that whatever is produced hopefully is something that TxDOT can utilize to let those entrances and exits be constructed in the future. So I hope that answers your question. Tomorrow's the day.
Anything new on the other projects?
A couple things, You can look in the report, the notes that were included for each. We typically update y'all on Killam Turn Lane, Los Presidentes, Vallecillo, and what's coming up. What's coming up I mentioned earlier, but I want to reinforce that. That's the Transportation Reinvestment Zone Workshop on Friday. We've invited MPO, city, county, ourselves to sit in on that meeting, and that's to really try to figure out how the RMA can work with the city to develop South Laredo. What I found interesting, if you go back to the list of 16 unfunded projects that were priorities, number 3, number 4, number 6, number 7. 3 overpasses in the stretch of road that you talked about are all there in the top 10. We as an RMA see Vallecillo and Cuatro Vientos as tremendous priorities in our community. Both are largely economic driven. What needs to happen in South Laredo is really important for people to get to all the jobs in Central and North Laredo, and to promote new jobs in South Laredo, and then Vallecillo to continue so that we are the largest dry port in America, and we continue to be. That's the lifeblood of our community right now, in my opinion, as oil and gas ramps back up. So something that was mentioned earlier on Category 7, I'm glad that the motion may have been altered to look at all sources of funds. Y'all may recall, I've been here 4 or 5 times saying, if for some reason we aren't given the monies through Category 12 funding when the $28 to $30 billion hits in March, we would like to be next in line for Vallecillo after HR. And I sat there listening to the comments about South Laredo and we absolutely agree that that's an important project. But we look forward to the workshop in January to visit about all these meaningful projects. And we'll continue to promote Vallecillo as to why we think it's so important and how we've put together the monies. It was important to us last year that it was ranked number 1. And the correspondence that we've shared with TxDOT, with David and people in Austin, really it's important that they know that Vallecillo is number 1 so that we can continue to get that funding.
And we think Vallecillo is an important and very viable and necessary project, but so is the loop. We need to get the overpasses and the expansion on the loop done. And so ultimately, that's vitally important for the city. And so we've had holdups there. And so we're going to be moving in the direction of the loop and improving the loop because we need it. We need to widen that loop. We need to have those overpasses, and we're stuck. And
Well, fortunately, a lot of Loop 20 is being enhanced soon. Am I correct, David? The part from 59 around towards the World Trade Bridge. So a lot of it's happening. A lot of the stuff that's in your district is already funded. So that's great news for all of us.
Oh, it's all funded.
It's all funded.
What's that?
It's all funded.
No, but I'm talking about once you get south of 59, the overpasses that we're talking about aren't funded. The ones that I think are part of what you're alluding to, right?
Well, we're alluding to overpasses along Jackman, along.
North of
Oh, you were
59.
talking about South Laredo too.
No, we're talking about
Okay.
north of 59.
Okay, yes, that's funded, correct.
But put on hold.
We're put on hold. We have right-of-way acquisition issues that we're trying to get through.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, and then River Road, we'll be ready next month to present. We've had 2 meetings with Juan. Melissa and I have met with Juan. We've put together a lot of data that can come back in that possibly could have been presented today, but I think it's more meaningful when you have the majority of the members here too, so that all can hear what's going on and our ideas for how to move that corridor study along. There was an interesting article in the newspaper today that was rather long, front page, back page, one of the longest articles I've seen. I was not contacted and I didn't know anything about it, but there's a lot of good information there. So we'll be back in next month with our updates.
Learn something readable today?
Yeah, all on River Road.
Yeah.
And
that was good, yeah.
so, if y'all have any other questions, I can answer them. If not, we will.
Thank
You know where to find me.
With everything. I really.
And we'll see you Friday morning. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take care. Moving on to director's comments.
Yes, thank you.
Last item.
This thing, I'll be brief. Just so y'all know that we're coordinating with TxDOT to add the World Trade Bridge expansion project to the Transportation Improvement Program and the STIP. So this is important to allow participation and oversight of the environmental clearing process by FHWA and TxDOT. So we're working on that, coordinating with TxDOT. I know the policy committee requested quarterly reports from City of Laredo staff on the Fletcher Lane project, like Calton and Santa Maria interchange. Those updates will begin in January of 2022. We continue to work with Bill Frawley of TTI on the MPO process review. We're hoping to bring some items forward in January for action on that. As you all know, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was passed by Congress and signed by the President on November 15th. We'll continue to review guidance on that And we're looking at requirements relevant to MPOs and any new funding opportunities. So we'll be looking at that closely. And lastly, we have our technical committee meeting January 11th, next policy committee meeting January 19th, and an active transportation committee on January 26th, with that potential workshop on January 12th. That's all I have for my report, and just wanted to wish you all Merry Christmas. So.
Merry Christmas to you all, to you all present as well and the public.
Everybody,
listening and
Merry
viewing.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Motion
So,
to adjourn?
Second.
yeah, there's a motion, a second to adjourn, discussion, unheard. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, none heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Yeah, this meeting's adjourned. It's at 3:34 p.m. Thank you. Thank you all. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.